everybody, Joshua back here again with another video, and I'm here to give you another top 5. It's that time of the week again, so let's get right down into it, to my top 5 list of the week. I'm here to give you my first time ever, the top 5 worst of the week. Now, obviously, if you've been a subscriber of my channel for the past 2 years now, then you would know when it comes to my top 5s that I usually dedicate my top 5s to stuff I love, to stuff I appreciate, to stuff I respect and just cherish. Things that I consider to be the best of the best and my ranking in them. However, I never actually dedicate a top 5 to things I think are just total shit, terrible, and just god-awful. However, I decided for once I'm going to do that right now with my top 5 worst DC movies of all time. Now, there's a lot of freaking DC fans out there who might disagree with this list. So I need to make sure that everyone keeps this in mind, that this is a subjective opinion. All my lists are subjective opinions. If you disagree with them, comment below. Let me know what your personal thoughts are. And of course, give me your top 5 list of the worst DC movies of all time. But that being said, let's just get right down to it. This is obviously top 5 worst DC movies. I'll actually be doing extras to this. I'll do a top 5 best DC movies. I'm going to do a top 5 worst Marvel movies. And of course, a best and vice versa. And so on and so forth. So this is going to be like its own separate thing, just the worst of shit that I dislike and my ranking of them. So let's just get right down to it. Obviously, just got to keep in mind, comment below, it's a subjective opinion, so if my opinion if you disagree with my opinion, that's just how things go down. But these are shit movies that need to be shitted on. That being said, going on to number 5 on this list has to go to the Green Lantern movie. A relatively new movie, however, a piece of shit movie. Now, obviously, when it comes to this movie, Warner Brothers did some kind of good, which is actually attempting to make a DC movie, combo movie, that's not a Superman or a Batman. It's almost like they got their head out of their ass and they were like, hey, we have the entire DC universe. Why don't we make a movie based on one of them? You know, they finally got, they're thinking straight. However, the execution of this movie just isn't there. The Green Lantern movie fails on so many fucking parts. It's just laughable. It's a god-awful movie, and it's a terrible attempt. And I really had high hopes for this movie, because this movie was supposed to be the launching point for an entire new DC universe over at Warner Brothers. You know, Chris Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy was coming to an end, and this was supposed to be kickstarting a new universe. Obviously, the only thing it kickstarted was a terrible franchise for the Green Lantern movies, so that's pretty much all I can really say. Green Lantern movie sucks. The only good thing is about it, I guess, has to be, I guess to a certain extent, Ryan Reynolds' performance as Hal Jordan, and I guess everything that has to deal with him becoming Green Lantern in space. Other than that, everything else is just god-awful, and just a movie that you don't technically need to ever watch. But that being said, moving off of that, going to number 4 on this list has to go to Steel. Now, you probably don't know what the heck, if you're a youngin', you probably don't know what the fuck Steel even is. Well, apparently, let me give you a history lesson. Back in the day, when DC had some fucking cojones, and they fucking killed off their main badass, Superman, they fucking had something called the Reign of Supermen. They had multiple people from the DC universe come over and be imposter Superman to continue the reign of what Superman stands for in the DC universe. And of course, one of those people who impersonated Superman over the death of the main protagonist, Kal-El, is obviously Steel. And after the incredible success of him being a Superman in that comic book run, they decided to make a movie dedicated to him. Unfortunately, it's very loosely based on the Steel character, and they had Shaquille O'Neal casted in the main superhero role. Now, I don't hate Shaq. I really don't. I don't despise him by any stretch of the imagination, but I will say this publicly. If there is one thing that he should have never attempted outside of his athletic career, it's definitely acting. He's not an actor, he's not particularly a good actor, and this movie pretty much explains as to why. It's just a god-awful superhero movie, and it's just undefendable. Go check it out. You'll find out. It's just a god-awful movie that doesn't need to exist. But moving off of that, going to number 3 on this list has to go to Catwoman. Catwoman, at least for me, is one of the biggest disappointments of any superhero movie I've seen ever. Mostly due to the fact that Catwoman is one of my favorite characters of all time. She is so amazing. She's so interesting. She has an incredible comic book series. However, Warner Brothers, or whoever the fuck was involved, found a way to destroy one of the greatest Batman characters of all time. I don't know how you can do that, seeing as how Batman is so rich with history and awesomeness. You find a way to fuck over one of the most badass characters? Now, granted, I was really psyched for this movie. I feel like a Catwoman solo movie would be actually pretty cool, especially back in the day. I mean, you had Halle Berry, Benjamin Bratt. That could have been awesome. You could have had Benjamin Bratt be Batman. You could have had, obviously Halle Berry be Selena Kyle or whatever. I don't care about the race change. You can do it. Fuck it. Halle Berry's an awesome actress, and she was, definitely on a high back in, the specific era when this movie was being made. However, this is just undefendably bad. It's so terrible. It has nothing to do with the Batman mythology. It's god-awful. Her performance sucks ass. It's pretty much the main reason as to why she only does Storm, and probably another main reason as to why she hardly does Storm anymore. It's just fucking god-awful movie. It's terrible. It's disrespectful to the character of Catwoman, and it has nothing to do with comic books or superheroes. They try to create an entirely different mythology with Catwoman, and it fails. It just falls on its face. Everyone involved sucks. The main antagonist sucks. Doesn't make any sense. Everything just is terrible with this movie. It's god-awful. That being said, going to number 2 on this list has to go to Superman for the Quest for Peace. Now, there's so many things you can say about this movie. I'm going to say this. This movie is definitely the death of the Superman franchise. It definitely is. With Superman 3 being a complete, just god-awful movie, they just decided, let's just go to 10 and just ruin this franchise and just create a screeching halt right now. And that's what they did with this movie. It's a god-awful sequel, it's a terrible Superman movie, and this movie is pretty much the main reason as to why Superman as a franchise fails, and is the main reason as to why majority of all comic book fans around the world have zero hope in the Superman franchise. It's because of these movies, Superman 3 and specifically Superman 4, Quest for Peace, which is a completely horrible sequel to the Superman movies, completely shits on everything that Christopher Reeve and Richard Donner worked so hard to create with the prior movies. It's just terrible. Everything about this movie sucks, and it's the main reason as to why a lot of people don't even give a shit about Superman anymore, and specifically why the franchise is not up to par with what it really realistically should be. That being said, before I get to my number 1 pick, let's name off some honorable mentions of the shittiest shit of DC comic book movies. Coming up with the honorable mentions has to go to freaking Superman 3, terrible movie. Batman Forever, also crap movie. Jonah Hex, another shitty-ass movie. Return of Swamp Thing, really crappy sequel. Supergirl, Superman Returns, freaking League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Just the list goes on. The Batman movie with Adam West. I mean, I like Adam West and all, but that's why it's an honorable mention. It's crap, but it's not, there's like a nostalgia to it, but overall, it is still kind of crappy, and kind of should be on a list of somewhere that's just worst of the worst. But that being said, those are just a couple of honorable mentions, and a lot of misfires by DC and Warner Brothers, but they don't even compare to the movies that were on this list, and of course to my number 1 pick, which has to go to the infamous, the epitome of shit movies, the definition of crappy-ass superhero movies, and the number 1 choice for any shitty DC movie, Batman and Robin. Now, granted, Batman and Robin gets a lot of flack and has been dedicated to ridicule ever since its conception. I'm not gonna lie, it's a shit show. However, it deserves to be a shit show because it's a crap movie. You know what? I'm gonna admit publicly, I actually like Batman and Robin, but when I was a kid, I didn't know shit about movies. I am a grown-up now. I'm a grown adult. I understand movies a lot more back when I was a kid. And that movie is just a representation of what Warner Brothers and DC were really doing at the time, which is not making good movies for everyone, but making a kid's show. It was a fucking merchandising tactic for creating toys for kids like me to buy. That's what this movie is. It's not a Batman movie. It's a fucking merchandising commercial. This movie is god-awful terrible. It's undefendable. I know a lot of people are hardcore fans of the Schumacher Batmans, and that's perfectly fine. If you're a hardcore fan of the Schumacher Batman, that's awesome. That's cool for you. But you like shit movies. At least admit it. And on top of that, it's just undefendable. You know, it's just... You know, like, the argument could be made, definitely, the argument could be made that Batman and Robin is one of those movies that you watch drunk, or it's one of those movies that you watch with a group of friends and just make fun of it. Sure, you could do that, but I don't even want to do that. This movie is so terrible and disrespects everything Batman. Just, I mean, like, if someone wants to make the argument, it's like, oh, the Chris Nolan Batman ruined Batman, it's like, really? Have you ever seen this fucking piece of shit? Because this Batman has a credit card, a Bat credit card, and fucking shitty-ass villains, and a Robin who should be a Nightwing, and a whole bunch of other real bastard-ass reasons that are horribly wrong in that movie. But then, you know, in comparison to that Batman. But you want to shit on that one. The logic makes sense nowhere. However, I will say and admit that Batman and Robin is kind of fun when you watch it when you're drunk and with friends and shitting on it. Regardless of any of that, it's a shit movie and deserves to be number one. I mean, I'm just saying, I know that Schumacher and even George Clooney have been very public on how they realized that this movie is shit, and how they completely poke jokes at each other, where it's like, yeah, I was Batman in that shitty-ass movie. It's like, I get it, and I understand it, and I respect how comedically, overly exaggerated they can get when it comes to making fun of themselves for that shitty-tastic movie that is Batman and Robin. However, there's a reason why the Batman franchise was dead for so many years. There's a reason why no one gave a shit about comic book movies for years. There's a reason why it took us this long to be in a comic book superhero renaissance. It's because of this movie. It destroyed the superhero genre, and it destroyed the Batman franchise. Fuck this movie. But that being said, this has been my top 5 worst DC movies. I'm pretty sure my opinion may fucking change because there's shit tons of new DC movies in the horizon. Hopefully they're awesome and amazing. The DC Extended Universe is in full throttle and I can't wait to check it out, especially BVS. But you never know, one of them could be a shit show. I hope not, but you just never know. But that being said, this has been my top 5 worst DC movies. Do you agree with my list? Do you disagree with my list? Let me know in the comment section below. What is your top 5 worst DC comic book movies of all time? Next time, not specifically next week, but next time, I'll definitely be doing a plus to this, which is my top 5 best DC comic book movies. And then I'll be doing a top 5 worst Marvel movies, because I'm not leaving out Marvel. I mean, granted, Marvel has broke the code when it comes to the cinematic universe. But before the cinematic universe existed, they had a shit ton of shitty-ass movies. So I'll definitely be getting into that. And of course, and vice versa, the best Marvel comic book movies, and so on and so forth. And of course, let me know what you personally think about me doing top 5 worst lists. Just let me know your personal thoughts on that. But that being said, comment below, let me know what you personally think. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jonch12. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already, and I hope you guys enjoyed, and this has been Jonch12.